Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another science class. My name is Mr. Lema. I'm the science teacher at Stanford High School. And today is 29th of April. We will be talking about the combinations of genes that will affect tremendously the idea of heredity that we have. So let's try to focus a little bit on how the genes combine and how to predict the possibility of um, having different traits that possibly we can have from our parents and grandparents. Okay, um, so let me go and present this present mode. I think it's going to be better for everyone. Yeah, it takes to loads. Okay, there we go. So, second slide. Well, all my students, you have to do your do now for today, for the Wednesday activity. So answer these two questions and remember to create a Google Docs and make sure that you can answer which one is the correct answer and give me reasons why it's correct as much as giving reasons why the others are incorrect. All right. And at this time, the essential question that we want to learn at the end of this unit. So this is not a question you have to answer whatsoever. This is a question to guide your knowledge, your learning. So at the end of the unit, we want to answer how is the combination of genes important in determining the inheritance of biological traits. All right, and here's the North Carolina standards we were working with. Let's review something before we actually go a little deeper on this topic. So we all know that organism is made of cells, and cells have their central command, which we call the nucleus. Inside the nucleus, you can find a specific part of this code for controlling everything that happens in your cell, which is made of um, DNAs and proteins. This is your chromosomes. I just told you chromosomes are made of DNAs and proteins. So the most important part is chemical structure you find inside your nucleus is actually the DNA. And parts of your DNA that code for a specific trait, that's what we call the genes. So let's review about sexual reproduction and heredity. We talked about during the meiosis class that you have your female cells combined with male cells. So eggs would be combining with sperms, and each one of them have 23 chromosomes in case of humans. When they combine together, they form a zygote with 46 chromosomes, or if you prefer, 23 pairs of chromosomes. They make a pair. Each pair comes from each parent. And this zygote now, after several processes of mitosis, will grow into an embryo and later a baby and later you. And still with 46 chromosomes or 23 pairs if you prefer. The sexual reproduction in heredity also brings me the idea that humans have a total of 46 chromosomes in 23 pairs. So one chromosome of each pair comes from each parent. All right. What we will be analyzing is what happens in each pair of chromosomes, and identify each genes. How can they be coded for different traits? Let's analyze the chromosomes. A chromosome, this is a real picture from a microscopic picture, and this is the illustration. A chromosome comes from one pair from dad, another pair from mom, and they have areas we call genes that codes for specific traits. So each set of genes code for different traits. You can check also or review these concepts in either one of these links. So the chromosome pair, you can find that, for example, if while both chromosomes have the same genes, they can have different forms of genes. So this is an example for the gene that codes for the eye color. My mom gave me the information that the eye color would be blue. However, my dad gave me the information that my eye color would be brown. So in the chromosome to the left, one form of the gene for eye color will give you blue eyes and the other will give you brown eyes. Does it mean that I have one eye is blue and another eye is brown? Nope. Actually, there is a system of dominance, and we will learn here in the later slides that the brown information, chemical information, is dominant over the blue information. So even though you have received from your mom, in this example, a information for having blue eyes, you have both eyes brown because of this dominant system. The various forms of the same gene is called alleles. So basically, alleles, you're going to have one allele for coding for brown eye, another allele coding for blue eyes. And that's because you receive one information from dad, another information from mom. Well, alleles are then defined as, I'm sorry, they are actually represented by letters. You have seen that before um, during our WISE activity last week. The letters represent actually uh, the, the first letter of the dominant trait. So in our past example for the color of their eyes, we would be using the letter B as brown, not as blue, but as brown. If you compare to green, for example, we're still using letter B. Here, I give another example where I'm using the letter G for something. Um, what I'm telling you is that uppercase G um, is a dominant trait compared to the lowercase g. That would be a recessive trait. Let's define these words in a minute. But before, let's talk about phenotype and genotype. So a phenotype, an organism phenotype describes the physical characteristics that can be observed. So the phenotype of an organism is whatever I can see, whatever I can observe. On the other side, so the color of the eyes, how tall you are, stuff like this. On the other side, the genotype describes the actual genes an organism has. Your genotype is not always obvious from your phenotype. As I told you before, you could have the phenotype, the characteristic I can observe of brown eyes, but my genes, maybe my mom gave me the gene for green eyes, and I don't have green eyes. So it doesn't actually match your, your phenotype. So here is another example just telling you that genotype is whatever information you have here in your DNA, and phenotype is the physical characteristic you can actually observe. All right, so the genotype is the genetic makeup of a person, while the phenotype is the physical manifestation of inherited trait or disease. In another example. But the big question is, how can you wear your mom and dad's genes at the same time? Well, you can't. But we all know the chromosomes they are working pairs, and now we understand that each pair comes from each parent. So possibly there's something that you don't express both characters at the same time. So that's why we're talking about dominance. Let's take a look at this slide now. Uh, Here is for this organism is an example. Use the letter A to code for something that I don't know what it is, right? But I know that when I have both genes uppercase A, well, the phenotype that describes it is a dark skin. As much as when I compare the same organism with lowercase a in in the DNA, in the genotype, well, the phenotype will be light skin, light color. However, when I combine them, I can understand that I don't have half of my organism dark and the other half light. I have the entire organism with a dark color. That means that there's a dominance, there's a predominance. I'm hiding the other information. So the genotype uppercase A is capable to hide information from lowercase a, and I have the entire organism with dark color. Remember, it's a chemical interaction. That's why um, we are able to see this type of, of response. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. The other side here, I have also another example of a genotype uppercase A in both sides, which codes for yellow seeds. When I have lowercase a's for both, it codes for green seeds. However, when I mix them up, the green seed is hidden. So that's why the green color would be a recessive trait, and the yellow color would be a dominant trait. So let's go to analyze this the same way. Um, I'm talking about the genotype and phenotype. There are two genotypes that code for the same phenotype. The same thing happens here with the seeds. As definition, the dominant allele is one that is expressed in the phenotype even if only one copy is presented in the genotype, and is also represented by a capital letter. On the other side, a recessive allele is one that is expressed in the phenotype only when two copies of it are present, represented by a lowercase. So the only way I can express my recessive trait is when I have plant um, genotypes only for my recessive trait. If there is anything that codes for the dominance, a dominance characteristic will show up. If one chromosome in the pair contains a dominant allele and the other contains a recessive allele, the dominant allele will be expressed in the phenotype. That's what I just talked about. Alleles that have the same form of the same gene, two capital or two lowercase, are called homozygous. So when they have two uppercase letters or for two dominants, or two lowercase letters for two recessive traits, we're talking about homozygous traits. Homo means the same, so they have the same gene with the same code. On the other hand, alleles that have two different forms of the same gene, one capital and a lowercase, they're called heterozygous. So when you have a capital and a lowercase letter, this is a heterozygous. It doesn't matter if the phenotype is the same, but I know it's heterozygous in a DNA. The information is mixed up. So this example shows me that the individual way is heterozygous because he receives an information for blue eyes and not information for brown eyes. However, you will express brown eyes only because brown is dominant compared to blue. Individual B is homozygous, brown, so it will also code for brown eyes. The only way you can express your blue eyes when both alleles in the same gene, the same area of a chromosome, codes for blue eyes, and you receive this from your parents. Well, now you're ready for your exit ticket today. Just click on the link and do your activity on quizzes for practicing. Okay? Thank you very much. I see you next time.